Hey, Matt here. Next installment of the Story64. This video is going to be a little different. Testing out my big camera, my Pentax that I've had for a number of years. It should be better than my phone, but I'm not sure about the sound and things of that nature just by itself. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about the drivetrain history of the 64. Again, it's 1964 F100 Ford half-ton, two-wheel drive, long box. It's over there. You can't see it. It's out of shot right now, out of frame right now. But it's had just a couple of different motors over the years that I've had it. Originally, I actually wrote some notes down because I wanted to make sure I got this right. Original was the 223 mileage maker, inline 6, with a whopping 114 horsepower on a one-barrel carburetor. That actually is a great motor. The motor, my grandfather owned it from 1968 to 94, which is when he passed on. I took it over, and I highly doubt it had any work done to it other than just maybe spark plugs. I'm assuming spark plugs, oil changes, that stuff of that nature. But after I took it over, we did rebuild the motor. I mentioned that in another video. We rebuilt it in the frame while I was still in the vehicle, which again, unique experience. It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to do that again. It's a good one-time experience, but it was fun. Obviously didn't do any machine work to the motor itself. It was, even with what, 30-some-year-old bearings and stuff in it, everything looked really good, and so it really didn't need much. We just replaced the bearings and rings and things of that nature. Behind that, it had the Borg-Warner T98 4-speed, Farmer 4. It had the granny lows, as they like to call it. So basically, it was a 3-speed with a really, really low gear. What I saw was a 6.38 first gear, which is, it's very low. Which that 223 really needed that low of a gear to pull anything. But it did fine. It pulled wagons, it pulled all kinds of stuff, and it never had any problem that I'm aware of. May have been a traction issue. It doesn't have limited slip, so there may have been a little bit of traction issue every once in a while out in the pastures and things of that nature. Followed by the rear end itself is a Ford 9-inch. Originally it would have had a 411 in it. Ford 9-inch of those years, I don't remember exactly what the situation is. There's a different number of splines for the axles, so they're not directly interchangeable. You have to get special or different axles than the modern 9-inch, but they're still readily available, so that's really not a big issue. Now, in I want to say 1998, or no, it would have been 1999. I needed to pull a trailer across the state of Iowa, and I was moving from Monticello, excuse me, we're in Iowa, it's Monticello, to Omaha, and I really needed to pull a trailer. So I said, that straight 6 is not going to pull a trailer. Even on 2-lane highways, it's going to be horrible. It'll take forever. And my dad found a 78 Thunderbird at one of his friends had a used car / auto repair shop in our hometown. It was only $250. It was in pretty rough shape, but the motor seemed good. It ran good. So we got it, pulled the motor as a 351 Windsor, whopping 152 horsepower. Of course, this would have been in the Malaise era, the late 70s, so they were smogged up. They had all kinds of restrictions on them. But it had a 351 Windsor 2-barrel, followed by FMX 3-speed automatic. Now, I put the FMX in. When I put the motor in, I really dislike that transmission. I guess it's okay. I mean, it lasted another, 30 years, or almost 30 years. And it never really failed me. I just was never very happy with it. That's why I never converted pedals over to the automatic pedal, I always had the clutch in there just in case I wanted to switch it back. I always wanted to put a 5-speed in it. And I never did anything to that transmission other than running out of transmission fluid a couple times. So I mistreated it. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. It's of that era of transmissions, you had the FMX, the C4, and the C6. The C6 obviously was the toughest, the stoutest 3-speed. C4 was mid-range. FMX was light duty. But again, it is what it is. It's what I had at the time. But we just literally pulled the motor out, pressure washed it, and I left. The shakedown run was a 3.5-hour drive from my hometown to Monticello. Excuse me. Yeah, Monticello. I said it right this time. With a stop in a little town called Blockton to get a trailer hitch welded onto it. And that's when I learned that the only thing holding the oil in that motor was all of the grime. Because when I started driving it, I noticed very quickly, for some reason, my oil pressure went down after a while. And I got out and it was smoking. And I looked in and there was just oil coming out around the front seal, just pouring out. So I kept putting oil in it. Long story short, that trip from my hometown, Bedford, all the way up to Monticello and to Omaha, I ran over a case of oil through it because I obviously couldn't replace the front seal. I was in a hurry, so I just kept dumping oil in. And then whenever I'd start to hear lifters clatter, I would put more oil in. So yeah, probably not the best thing, but the motor actually made it through fine, which is surprising. About that same time, we changed the rear end. It's still a Ford 9-inch, it's still the old style, but it's got a 353 in it. I'm relatively certain 353. We determined to go with a little bit higher gearing since it has that automatic in it. But in 2010, I brought it up to our house, and so we're living in Glenwood. But I rebuilt the motor, or I had the motor rebuilt, I should say. There was a machine shop in Omaha that did all the machine work. They assembled the short block, assembled the heads. And then I think, if I remember right, they actually put the heads on. And at the time, the builder put an RV cam in, which I don't know what the specs are. I don't know what company it came from. But basically the idea is it has a little more torque than the standard cam that would have come in it. And he happened to have a cast iron 4-barrel manifold, factory cast iron 4-barrel manifold for Ford 351. 351s are unique. They have a slightly taller deck, so you can't use any other small block Ford intake on them. It has to be special for a 351. And they only came from the factory with 4 barrels for a few years in the 80s, I think. And they were low rise, which is a little odd. He happened to have that. Actually, I've got the motor right here. There's the 351. You can roll this over here a little bit. Just freshened up the paint on it. I had to put a new harmonic balancer on. This is why I pulled it out, because the rubber around the old harmonic balancer was it was long slash legs. Actually, a little scary when I looked at it. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I did this now. You'll notice it's not Ford blue. I specifically didn't paint it Ford blue because in 1964, I researched this. If it would have came with a V8, the motors were black with Ford red valve covers. I thought it was sort of a neat little callback, you might say. It's not your standard Ford blue. It looks a little bit different. I'm running an Edelbrock carburetor, a 1405 600 CFM. It's currently over there. You might see it behind my shoulder, I guess. That side, maybe not. So yeah, this is the motor that I put in it. It originally back in, I believe, 99, then pulled it back out and had it rebuilt. There's really nothing special about it. Like I said, factory 4-barrel manifold, RV cam, as he called it. I'm running the, what is it called? It's Ford's electronic ignition, and now the actual name of it escapes me, but it's whatever would have been standard in 1978. And actually it's worked out pretty well. I did have to finally replace the ignition box actually last year because it failed on me, which I think is pretty good. Since the motor was rebuilt, it probably has only had 8,000 miles on it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it back in. It's a great running motor. Now, I'm putting this transmission in. This is a 93 to 96. I don't know exactly what year because they had these for actually quite a few years. I do know it's post 93 because the speedometer drive, which actually isn't in it right now, is the electronic speedometer drive, which is, I've been told that I can actually plug my speedometer cable right into this. Now, is it going to be right? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But this is a M5OD R2, which is actually a transmission made by Mazda. The R2 means it's the heavier duty one. They had an R1 that went into Ford Rangers, the small pickups at the time, and then the R2, which is sort of built on the same architecture, is for the heavier duty. Again, it's not a super heavy duty transmission. It was only put in the F100s or F150s of that year. So once you went up to F250s, they had the ZF5. And you could also get the ZF5s in F150s, but I'm not going to put a lot of strain on this truck. I mean, I will load it down, but it's not going to live a life of really tough work. A couple of things I did when I got this transmission, which I got a couple years ago, the transmission itself was in really good shape. It was pretty dirty. That was due to the rubber plugs back here, which is a very common problem with these M5ODs, where the R1 or R2, there's rubber plugs in the back, where this is where the shifter forks, or not the forks, the rods that the shifter forks slide on. They go in from the back, and they put rubber plugs in here. Well, over the years, those plugs get hard, and they crack, and then they leak. And I could tell all the gunk that was on this transmission. It was worse the worst right here, and just around it. So I knew it was the standard problem, and the fix for that is putting metal plugs in. It's a Dorman plug. There's a lot of different kinds of plugs, but most people use the Dormans, which I did. They drive in, but you also want to seal it with some silicone, so that, because it's not guaranteed a perfect blockage of all leaking. So the silicone helps that out. I also, like I said, pulled the top cover off. The gears in here looked great. You wouldn't think this was a 30-some-year-old transmission by looking at the wear in the gears. There's a little bit of wear, yeah. The person I bought it from, though, she had put it in I believe it was a mid-50s Ford pickup back in the early 2000s. It was a project truck, and it was in there for a few years, but of course it wasn't a working truck anymore. It was just a hot rod project truck type thing. So it didn't get a lot of miles put on it while she had it in, and then she pulled it out. It would be about eight years ago now, and it sat in her garage for quite some time, and she put it up for sale. Found it. It was up in Minnesota. Drove up and got it one day, and yeah, it looks, on the inside it looked great. I was very pleased with it. But I did pull the top cover off, like I said, so I put a new gasket on here. I also went ahead and put new rear seal and front seal on the input shaft on. Other than that, I did put a rebuild kit in the shifter. The shifters have a lot of little pieces in them that layer on top of each other, and there's supposed to be some plastic bushings in there, and when I pulled this off, those plastic bushings were gone, and this shifter was really sloppy. It's no longer sloppy at all. It shifts great, So I'm really pleased with that. Reverse there, if you're interested, that little red thing, that's for the reverse light. I guess that's about it. It does have a hydraulic clutch, which I will need to buy. This can only have a hydraulic clutch. As you can tell, the bell housing is hooked on, and it only has provisions for hydraulics. I did get a new slave cylinder to put in it, and I will need to get, modern Driveline makes a bolt-in master cylinder that's actually at the right angles that I can use the original clutch pedal in its original location, and it can use the full swing of the clutch pedal. So I'm really excited to get that and use it. I haven't bought it yet. Wanted to wait till I got it in so I can look and see how everything's going to work, because it mounts. I just want to make sure I got plenty of room where it mounts. Lastly, drive shaft. Originally this came with a two-piece drive shaft with a center bearing, and I had that in there. I just pulled it out actually. It needed it when it had the old Borg-Warner T98 transmission. That's a big, heavy cast iron transmission, but it's really short. So it's only like this long. It's really short, but it's a big hunk of cast iron. It's pretty heavy. But because of that, the distance from the back of the transmission to the rear end was quite a ways, so they had a center support bearing in there. So it was a two-piece drive shaft. Now when I put the automatic in, it made the front drive shaft really short, but I went in and had that shortened because that was sort of the cheapest thing I could do at the time. And I think that's might have been the cause of some of the vibrations I had, because the center support bearings are known for causing vibration. But now that I'm putting this 5-speed in, I know that the distance from the back of this to the rear end is slightly different. I knew I was going to need than the 3-speed, so I knew I was going to need a new drive shaft. I thought, well, why don't I just get rid of the center support bearing and put a 1-piece in? And all the measurements I did, it looks like it shouldn't be a problem. It's not too long of a drive shaft. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. But again, I can't get that drive shaft until I get the motor and transmission in and get the measurements. So that's about it. Just talking about the drivetrain, history, what was in it, what's currently in it, some changes I'm making, and if anybody has any questions, I guess. I don't know who's going to watch this, but maybe someday somebody will have a question. I was sort of already had some people ask me questions in some of my first videos, which I think is awesome. I did not figure I would have anybody watching, but I'm really happy that some people are liking it. So that's it for now. Again, this is Matt. Hope you have a great day.